So we've talked about in-depth the matches. We're going to look at it as a trilogy as a whole. So coming in at number 3, the Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns trilogy. So just to piggyback off of what you said, most of this trilogy was a lot of just, going against what the fans wanted. Like,
Fight
it was
fans.
just trying to force Roman Reigns into the role. And it's never a question of Roman Reigns' talents. Like, we were never, I think you said yourself, we were never against Roman Reigns as a talent, but we wanted to see Roman Reigns finally be himself and be different, which when you get to the end of this trilogy by their 38 match, that's the case. Everything had really fallen into place to where it needed to be. So yeah, that's the thing about the stories. But yeah, when I think back as far as storylines, there's not a lot in the story buildup of all 3 of these matches that really, like, man, these were iconic moments in WWE history. Like the 38, like I said, it had some memorable moments, definitely, in terms of how it projected leading into eventually Cody Rhodes. So I would say 38 stands on its own by that, but as a whole, I just don't really look back on this trilogy. Like even then, like I said, if I were looking even at all 7 matches, I'm going with the first, and then I'm going with the 7th, and that's pretty much the best parts of the Roman Reigns Brock Lesnar trilogy, especially when you narrow it down. And then the matches, when it came to the matches, a lot of this boils down to what you once told me, man, 0001. It was the SmackDown versus Raw / 2K25 trilogy, basically. Suplex here, German suplex there, Superman punch here, spear there. That's literally all of what the matches they build in. Yeah,
just charge. Just charge your finish. That's all. Getting it in.
Pretty much. So it's like, I don't really look back on this trilogy as like an all-time, like the all-timer. And honestly, we might get a Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes trilogy. And I would say that if that ends up happening, this thing is still gonna find itself on number 4 on the list, because Roman Reigns, you look at the matches he had with Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania. If we're getting more of that, just one-on-one next time with them. And I think that's going to be an absolute all-time banger right there. So, and that's my thing too, that I was saying. Like I said, I am a fan of Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns in terms of what they do in the WWE, because Brock Lesnar's had some awesome matches. Roman Reigns had some awesome matches, but there was these particular matches that when you put them together, it's like all they can do is signature moves. All they can do is finishing moves. It's, break out the whole DD and the DD from Dexter's Laboratory. That's all you can do. That's all you can do. It's like
that's all you can say. That's all you can say.
In this case, though, all you can do, though, right? But for those of you who grew up 90s kids like us, but yeah, I mean, when you look at this, like Roman Reigns, he's had other matches where there was a lot more variety. Sure, when it comes to pro wrestling and WWE, particularly the baby faces and heel, everybody has like their signature 4 or 5 moves, but it's what builds up into those moments. Like as we get into our next trilogies, you're not going to hear us saying, oh, it was just all stunner and rock bottom here, it was all just pedigree and tombstone and chokeslam here. No, there was a lot more to those matches in between all that stuff. So that's the reason why I had to put it as least. It's my least favorite trilogy of the entire runs. It's on this list because it was a trilogy. But I mean, yeah, that's most I can say. I just don't, when I think of Brock Lesnar and I think of Roman Reigns, I really, like I said, I just don't associate this with all-time great stuff. Like you'll hear me talk about many more Roman Reigns promos and epic battles. You'll hear me talk about many more epic Brock Lesnar battles, but these matches right here won't be on them. Even if I had to narrow it down to one Brock Lesnar Roman Reigns match, it's going to that SummerSlam match they had, the 7-1. So that's where I'm going to end it off here. Man, 0001 as a trilogy, you agreed that this was the least ranked one. We put this at our least favorite. How do you look back on the legacy of Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns as a WrestleMania trilogy?
A lot of this feels very forced. It felt like it was being put up on us. And, it felt like it was being put up on us, and it felt like it was burdensome. Because, let's be honest here. I mean, yeah, we got 2 good matches out of this. You know what I mean? But those matches aren't like really like all-timers. Those matches are more so remembered for the moments they produced rather than the matches that they created. you know, and one of them was like just definitely was just ham-fisted. It was just put up on us, and you know, and it feels like this was just going against the grain of what we wanted to see. Like we wanted to see, you know, Bryan Danielson, become WWE World Heavyweight Champion once more. You know what I mean? And go on, go on to WrestleMania. You know, go on to WrestleMania and win that, and we didn't get that. You know, and we wanted to see him get a little bit more time in the sun as the champion. I mean, we eventually did, but it wasn't the same as if they did it right there. It's like they struck when the iron was cold. A couple years later, making him a champion, and we really we really we need that, and that that rivalry just felt like it was just like occupying so much space at the top. I mean, I guess they just felt like they needed to justify how much money they was paying those guys with putting them in those positions. But this right here shows that you just can't just pay someone up a whole bunch of money and then just think that, oh, this right here is just going to sell. Oh no, you have to go ahead and you have to make it worth our while, and they didn't. So these felt like they were forced. It felt like you were. It felt like you were for it's just like if you're watching a YouTube video, right? And it's a really funny YouTube video, but you got to watch three 10-minute ads in order to get there. Eventually you're just gonna be like, you know what, F it, I'm gone. I'm just gonna leave. F it, I'm just gonna leave. I'm not gonna watch this.
Coming in a little low, man. 0001.
It felt like F it. I'm just not gonna watch this. I'm just not gonna, I'm not gonna like sit there and watch, swim through this shit just so I can go and get what I want to get. Fuck this. I'm out of here. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, it felt forced and it felt put up on us.
Yeah. Yeah, excellent. Yeah, I think that's the reason why it doesn't have the fondest memory of the next two we're going to talk about. But like I said, at the end of the day, Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar, I think they've submitted themselves as two of the all-time greats in WWE, regardless of this trilogy. That being said, we move on to our number 2 rank for the WrestleMania all-time trilogies, The Undertaker versus Triple H. So we agree that this is our second favorite. So yeah, this was right here. Fantastic stuff from two of the all-time great legends. So I can say Triple H and Undertaker, they had a lot of great moments, a lot of great matches with a lot of other people. But you know what? This trilogy here is just only one piece of why these two are so beloved and have totally earned their Hall of Fame inductions. Taker a few years ago, Triple H most recently this past weekend. So man, absolutely stuff. When I look back on this trilogy though, I will say this: I don't think this trilogy to me was industry changing. That's gonna be in our number 1. This didn't change like the industry. Like, man, the industry is what it is today because of this trilogy. I can't say that honestly, but that doesn't make it bad. What this was here, I think this whole entire trilogy, this is a love letter to long-time loyal professional wrestling fans, a love letter to long-time WWE fans. I mentioned earlier, Triple H and Undertaker, they weren't the guys. They weren't Rock or Stone Cold Steve Austin, the faces of their company, but what they were extremely strong sort of co-stars, extremely strong supporting people. Like Rock and Austin may have been the draw, depending on what type of WWE era you're watching. They were the draw, but people like Undertaker, people like Triple H, they kept you. Like, gosh, the Triple H and Rock feud, the Undertaker Austin feud, like Triple H and Taker, you wanted to see what these guys had going on in their career, even if they weren't sometimes the biggest reasons why you maybe were turning on in terms of like when Rock and Austin, obviously as you get later on in their tenured, Triple H and Taker were definitely becoming like some of the big draws for why you may want to watch WrestleMania. But like when Rock and Austin were at their hottest, you wanted to see what Triple H and Taker had going on too, and that's kind of what I think. Like even that first match at WrestleMania 17, once again, Rock and Austin, they were the draw. That was the big main event for WrestleMania. But right under that, you wanted to see Triple H and the Undertaker go at it. And then when you get to those later matches, WrestleMania 27, 28, by that point, a lot of us had grew up. These, we were kids when they first fought at WrestleMania. We were young adults when, like in college when they were going into their last matches here. And when you look back on that, it felt like this is a way to really appreciate the fans of those era that have stuck around WWE. We're going to take you two of the people that you grew up watching and had been here the longest. We're going to treat the fans to an awesome emotional storytelling roller coaster. And that's kind of what I got out of that. That's why there's so much emotion out of any other trilogy on this match. I don't think there is one that is more emotional than this. You talk about timing, which I think fits perfectly into our number one, but this was more emotional because if we were ranking this based on pure emotion, this wins number one. This was meant for all the fans that grew up watching. That's what I got out of this match. That's why there is so much to that Triple H and Taker, because we've seen these people grew up. We saw when they were younger, just two big, testosterone driven people to prove who they were, who was the better in the ring, to now this is about so much more. This is about my friend and his retirement. This is about me giving everything that I got left, what I got left. This is about me knowing that my career is down, but I need to prove it. And then, hey, this is about all three of us going to war one last time. And at the end, you know what? We respect what we've done and what we've done for these people. Like, to me, if you grew to really understand the importance of Triple H and Undertaker's rivalry, you had to have grown up watching these guys. That's why it meant so much when you get to end of an era. And that's why I said I love it. I love this trilogy, and to me, like I said, it didn't change the industry, but rather it was just one giant thank you to fans like us that grew up watching these guys, fans who have grown up in this era of wrestling. And I think that's what makes this so special, and I'm thankful for what the Undertaker and Triple H gave in their careers for us. So that's what I remember, and that type of emotion and the match quality for what these guys were able to do when they were younger, and still, even with the limitations, when their bodies had a lot of mileage, to still go out there and put on the type of matches that they were putting on and put their bodies through what they were doing. It's just fantastic, man. And that's why it easily surpasses what I think our third ranking did. Man 0001, you grew up watching these guys like I did. Why did you put the Undertaker, Triple H? Well, how do you remember the Undertaker, Triple H? Because I'm pretty sure we'll get into why we make our number one that one. But yeah, you put it at number two. Go ahead.
Okay.
Where's yours?
All right. So this feud right here is the battle of the facilitators. These are the guys that, they're not necessarily going to make it to anyone's all-time great list in terms of, marketability and everything else. These are guys that make money, and they made some money, and they've also helped so many others make so much money for the business. These are people that help make stars. These are guys that have worked with so many generation of wrestlers. You have these are guys that worked with everyone from the Golden Age era, the New Generation era, the Attitude era, the Ruthless Aggression era, and these are guys that that worked with people in the Reality era, and so on and so forth. These are the guys that have facilitated the wrestling that we hear. These are the guys that have paved the way for all the wrestlers that we see. These are the
scenes now. They're helping out the current talent behind the scenes.
Yeah, so these are the people that they've gone on and they've done so much. It's like, both of them have wrestled Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair. They wrestled Seth Rollins, Jon Moxley, and Roman Reigns. These are guys who've wrestled the likes of CM Punk, and these are the guys who've gone on and they've gone on and they've had matches against so many of our past, present, and future stars of the industry. So this is these are the facilitators, and this is a battle of the gatekeepers, the King of Kings and the King of Kings, the cerebral assassin, the Game Triple H, and the Dead Man, Big Evil, the Dead Man, Big Evil, the American Badass himself, the Undertaker. These two guys are the gatekeepers and the facilitators. Once these guys put, because in this industry, these guys, once they put you over, let's, once these guys put you over, you're pretty much a made man. Once you get in there and you become a made man, you become a superstar. I mean, you look at it, you look at all of the people that they face, especially at WrestleMania. These are guys that even in defeat, they put you over and you go on to become a superstar in this industry. I mean, what I mean? Stands a couple, for the Undertaker, stands a couple of guys that are, his earlier WrestleMania opponents weren't all that exciting, but you look at WrestleMania 12, let's see, and you look at WrestleMania 12, 13, 14, you gotta miss 15, and then you go to WrestleMania 17. This right here is the Undertaker, putting on an all-time great here, at WrestleMania 17, and then you fast forward so many years later you fast forward 10 years later, and he's putting on an all-time great with Triple H again, and they do it again the next year. And and you truly have something there. And then you have them out there, and they're helping so much in the business. And these are guys that stay truly entrenched in the business. Like, these aren't guys that's leaving the business to go and do movies, or they're leaving because they're these are guys that literally wrote their careers till the wheels fell off. And true definition of hard work and sacrifice. So so definitely these are the facilitators, and these guys are, important in that fact, because without these guys, you wouldn't get the next two guys, in our number one. Without these guys, what I mean? What would have made this probably a little bit better if they found out a way to incorporate Mick Foley into this. Because he was a stalwart of the Attitude of the New Generation era, the Attitude era, and the earlier portions of the Ruthless Aggression era. So, definitely, they found out a way to put Mick Foley into this. I mean, because I'm glad they incorporated Shawn Michaels into this, but I also think that Mick Foley should have been incorporated into this as well, because he was pivotal, and he was pivotal to all of these men's careers as well. Yeah, so definitely.
Indeed. Well said. Absolutely well said. So yeah, that's literally what I think about the legacy of this one. And now we move on to our number one, Stone Cold Steve Austin versus The Rock. Man, so when it comes to this trilogy, man, I think this right here, this changed the industry. This absolutely did. When I think about how this came about, this truly changed the industry to me, because Stone Cold Steve Austin, obviously everyone knows when he got hot and he did the thing with Mike Tyson, and he did the thing with Shawn Michaels, and then you go to the next night on Raw. That's the night that I became hooked. I was watching WWE from 94 off and on till early 98, but it was Stone Cold Steve Austin that got me hooked and made me a professional wrestling fan till this day. And when I look back on Stone Cold and The Rock, man, Austin was on top of the level as the babyface. He was the person that finally got WCW to not win in the ratings over Monday Night Raw. Raw finally, after 2 years of getting their butt kicks in the ratings, they finally got one up over WCW. And then you had The Rock in 98, who just came so far from mid-card to the main event level. My man, it was crazy. We had these, like they always say, WWE was fortunate in the Attitude Era to have these two big, larger than life superstars. And then you get to WrestleMania 17, Austin and Rock, like I said, they were on a whole level. And I think 2000 is probably my favorite year in the WWE. You look at how popular The Rock got, and to the point Hollywood came calling back. And even though WWE was on the decline, as WrestleMania 19 unfortunately is one of the lowest brought WrestleManias when it comes to traditional pay-per-view buy rates, it was still, I think Rock and Austin had made their legacy by that point. This was a rivalry that changed the industry for the better because of what Rock and Austin did in the Attitude Era. So many fans. You look at how much money they made. It, like I said, WWE's just now getting to the point where they're making more money than what these guys were producing for them back then. Incredible. And then just the promos, Stone Cold and The Rock. So many great promos, so many great moments, so many great back and forth actions. It's no wonder why people still resonate. I'm always seeing on social media someone trying to emulate The Rock, the way he would sell the Stone Cold Stunner, flipping around doing those 360s. Stone Cold, basically, you know, just so many great moments. And that's the thing, when you look, it's not even the matches, the moments. They created so many great moments, so many memorable storylines. It's no wonder why many people say this is the greatest in WWE themselves, the greatest rivalry in WWE history. Now, I actually believe that Stone Cold versus Vince McMahon is the greatest rivalry in WWE history, and this Rock and Austin feud, particularly the first two matches at WrestleMania, it kind of bounced off. It branched out of there from that one. It's a part of that feud, but man, it's so much when you look at what this did. And I mean, look at the buy rate. WrestleMania 17 was the first WWE pay-per-view under that traditional pay-per-view model to end up getting over 1 million buy rates. They packed the Astrodome in they sold out the Astrodome out in Houston, Texas. That was the first time that had been done since, I think, going back to WrestleMania 6, was it? With Hulk Hogan and Ultimate Warrior, and then before that there was the Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant. It got WrestleMania back to packing stadiums. That's what Austin and Rock did. That's how much of a draw that was, and they didn't have to rely on bringing back older stars from the 80s or 70s. It was just, these are our homegrown guys in the 90s, and they made the most of it going into the early 2000s. The Stone Cold Rock, like I said, they are two of the biggest superstars. They are the biggest. This is why it's one of the biggest rivalries ever. It changed the industry for the better, and I think these matches, it brought us to why we like larger than life, even more why we like other larger than life characters. I mean, they took it to a whole new level. They brought the edgy type characters. You know, you had the super cool superhero like characters before them, but now these were two edgy characters, and they really affected how I felt about baby faces. You know, that was one of my complaints in the most recent Cody Rhodes and John Cena match, when you got Cody Rhodes like, I can't hit John Cena, even though I hit Kevin Owens when the referee wasn't looking. I can't do it, you know, and then John Cena wins in this victory. Back in that day, you screw over Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock, they gave no F's. Look at when Rikishi was orchestrated to run over Stone Cold Steve Austin. Austin came back 1 year later, put Triple H up in a forklift, and he says, "You stand right there, you got a hell of a ride coming." And he says, and Triple H like, no, and Austin gives him the bird and says, "You stupid SOB," boom, and walks off and gives no F's. Those were the type of baby faces that were super cool back in that era, growing up as a kid. And that's why, like, I look at baby faces now, and I want baby faces like Rock and Austin to be there, and they did a tremendous job. Like, yeah, this whole thing changed the industry, and I don't think there's ever been a trilogy, there's ever been a rivalry quite like it. I don't think there may never ever be one. The only thing I could think that could come close to this, just in terms of pure story, is if Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns, they have a third match at WrestleMania. But even then, the star power of what Rock and Austin did, fantastic. Like I said, I might end up going Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes, possibly. We'll have to see that in the future. But as of April 23rd, 2025, when we're live streaming this right now, arguably Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock, the greatest WrestleMania trilogy in history. It did so much for the business, and they're my two all-time favorites, and their rivalry, their match, absolutely legendary. Man, 0001, we'll go ahead and conclude with you. You witnessed all three of these epic battles in person. What is your perspective on the legacy of the Stone Cold Steve Austin Rock trilogy, as you gave it the number one as well?
See, I gave it the number one spot because this right here, these two guys right here are revolutionary superstars in professional wrestling history. This is like, the term superstar applies to them, you know, and when you have the term superstar, this applies to them. Like, these are guys that transcend professional wrestling. These are guys that their catchphrases and the things that they say and do went into everyday people's everyday vernacular during that time. This is what people were using during that time. The Rock says this: "You smell what the Rock is cooking." That's the bottom line. What? 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 Because Stone Cold said so. So I'm gonna open up a can of whoop ass song. You're gonna stomp a mud hole in your ass and walk it dry. Let's see. It doesn't matter what your name is, and so on and so forth. Because you have regular people like that weren't even hardcore wrestling fans watching this stuff, consuming it, and and they sat up there and they ate it all up. And this right here is something that made a lot of people who otherwise wouldn't be watching wrestling watch wrestling. And you have that now. I mean, you spoke about the role of babyface earlier, and these two guys were not baby faces; these were anti-heroes, and that became baby faces. These are people that relatable. They said what we were thinking. They said the things that we were thinking. Because before, because they said things that we were thinking. Because before, the baby faces would be like, you know, I'm here to save you. Back off, jack off. Don't ever mess with them again. And so on and so forth. No, these guys were real and they were relatable. Rock said things
No
that
need
was
to
real.
fear, underdog is here. That type, yeah.
Yep. So it's just like, you had that, and like the closest thing we got to to a baby face that wasn't like corny or anything was like Bret the Hitman Hart, Shawn Michaels from a previous generation. Because that really, because that kind of foundation started under them, no pun intended, for the Hart Foundation. But still that kind of foundation started under them. But Bret Hart, he was gone by the time these two guys reached their peak. Bret was gone, Shawn was gone. Now they left the field wide open for Austin and Rock, and Triple H, and Mankind, and the Undertaker. When Kane to a certain degree to ascend and become big stars during this time. And you know what I'm saying. So it's like they took that and they went to the next level. And these guys were definitely very important during that time, and they helped make so much money. And like the guys who were in the previous spot, their careers were helped by those guys. Triple H and Undertaker, and then you have these guys. They get there. Storytelling was good. The in-ring action was good. You know what I mean? The only people that were upset were people that had a problem with foul language and stuff like that. Foul language and vulgarity. But other than that, you watched it, you enjoyed it, and every time they were on, they didn't miss. There was, and you have these three matches at WrestleMania, all three of them telling three different stories. You have The Rock, who's a representation of the corporation, versus Stone Cold Steve Austin, who's a blue collar working man hero, and he comes in and he defeats the corporation. And then the next one is two of the absolute best facing each other over the most important prize, over the biggest and most important prize in this business, which is the World Wrestling Federation title. This is to see who is the absolute best. And the last one was finality. And it's finality, and it's us reckoning with our own mortality. Not necessarily leaving this world, but our own mortality in certain ways. High school, grammar school ends, high school ends, college ends. We all graduate, and for them, this is their graduation out of the industry. On to other things they could be doing in their life. Now, did Austin come back a lot during over the years? Sure. Did The Rock come back over the years? Sure. Both of them have come back and have come in and out of the industry. But all in all, this is them graduating from their Attitude Era, New Generation Era, and early Ruthless Aggression Era selves into much more mainstream projects. And this is them graduating into a life they've built for themselves up to that point. These guys made millions and millions and millions of dollars, and the only thing that they had to do at that point was just maintain. So, it's finality. So that's why what I mean. Definitely, in life, you know, um, embrace what you got. Because before you know it, tomorrow is here. And and you can't worry too much about yesterday, because before you know it, next week is here. Before you know it, next month is here. Next year is here. Next year turns into 5 years. 5 years turns into 10. 10 turns into 20 and 30. So, like the guy from Smash Mouth says, the years keep coming and they don't stop coming. So that's why I gotta hit the ground running. So always,